A look at Mac Jones during that 7-game win streak versus the last 2 games. 9 touchdowns and 2 picks during that 7-game win streak, and 2 touchdowns and 4 picks, and the completion percentage way down for Mac Jones. Got my offensive and defensive guys with me, Matt Cassel and Ted Johnson. And let's start with Mac Jones. Matt Cassel, when you take a look at him out there today, he just was not able to connect with his receivers. Why is that in your eyes?
You know, it was just a bad performance. And again, it's one of those things that as you move on in the season, as you get into these December months, look, you've had repetition with these receivers, and you know their body language and the routes that are being called. And so there was just a lot of inconsistency today, especially with accuracy. Normally his accuracy, his timing is what makes him tick. And you could see time and time again throughout the course of the game, he was just missing throws, whether it was the Hunter Henry on the sail route, whether it was Hunter Henry in the third quarter. I think right here is a great illustration of it, is where he just overthrew a wide open receiver. That's a big time play, and he needed that in this game. And there was times where I felt he was flustered in the pocket. He wasn't set. His feet weren't set. And so there's this thing going on with his mechanics, his technique. He's getting a little bit flustered where he's just missing some of these wide receivers. And there wasn't a ton of help out there. I know that. But at the end of the day, he has to play better in big moments. And here's another one where he's forcing it down the field, puts too much air on it. That one should have been intercepted right there.
You know what, Matt? Look, I got to give the kid a break a little bit. He did not have a good game. I mean, he had a quarterback rating of 17 at halftime. And so it was not a good performance. And I will say this, when you get pressure on him early in games, I feel like it just throws off his timing. His timing the last 2 weeks, because he feels pressure. And the Colts were able to get, they had some timely blitzes. And even when they only rushed 4 guys, they were able to get pressure. And I just feel like you get pressure to Mac Jones early in the game, it really throws him out of whack. And you see him doing his breathing technique while he's out there on the field, and that's what concerns me. But also, Matt, I also feel some of the play calling is a little bit just not creative, and not like it used. I used to see a ton of really creative screens, fake here, fake right, double screens, that kind of stuff. I don't see that as much, and you're throwing more downfield to guys like N'Keal Harry, and I get it, Jacoby Myers is a good receiver, but why isn't Kendrick Bourne getting involved a little bit more? Why aren't they trading more plays to get Jonnu Smith at least, involved in the offense? That's the frustrating thing to me. So I almost want to give Mac Jones a little bit of benefit of the doubt, because some of the play calling I feel like hasn't been like it was during that win streak. It's gotten a little bit more basic and honestly just not using the guys that you have to their talents, in my opinion. Yeah,
Matt, just how creative should have Josh McDaniels gotten in the second half of this matchup against the Bills with the play calling?
Well, at least in the second half, they're able to go out and establish something, right? They scored 2 touchdowns. They're limited on possessions. They only had 1 possession in the third quarter. They went down, scored a touchdown. They did the same thing in the fourth quarter. And so they were able to go produce. It was really how they've been able or not been able to start games fast, right? They have to start the game faster. They can't get behind in a deficit in the first half and think that this is a team that can continue to play but from behind, because even as you got into the fourth quarter, this team's still huddling, right? They're not into like the 2-minute mode, especially when your back's up against the wall. You need a score. Time is of the essence. You have to go down and score. They're still huddling because they need that run game element to help propel that offense forward, and they just haven't had any consistency in the pass game to where they feel confident enough just to jump into the 2-minute and turn the game over to Mac.
Yeah, and the tight ends also were a no-show in this matchup, Ted. You talk about Hunter Henry, who's usually really good with Mac Jones. They have a really strong connection. Only 1 reception for Hunter Henry out there today. Jonnu Smith, who knows where he was out there today. But when you take a look at the tight ends, just what more did you want to see from them?
Yeah, anything. A lot more. I mean, look, we all know that, I think Jonnu Smith is a good blocker. Hunter Henry, not so much. So why don't you just get them involved in the offense? These are your 2 big free agent acquisitions. Kendrick Bourne, too. Get them involved in your offense early. I used to see just more scheme plays to get them involved earlier in the season than I'm seeing now, quite honestly. And so the tight ends should be more productive than they are. I mean, Hunter Henry, he catches a lot of touchdowns. We know that during that streak. But a lot of times between the 20s, you don't see him getting open. He's not a guy that's just going to beat man-to-man, one-on-one stuff. They would scheme for these tight ends, not only in the screen game, but they'd also scheme them to get picked so that they could get open and beat man-to-man coverage. I haven't seen that the last 2 weeks. You got to get those guys more involved, because if they're not a threat, it makes you way too one-dimensional with Jacoby Myers, basically, and Damian Harris running the whole thing.
Right. And a lot of it has to do, I think, sometimes with the personnel unit that they had. They went a lot of heavy personnel in the first half, so they weren't really utilizing the pass game, where you can tell that Hunter Henry's become more and more involved in the pass game as the games have gone on throughout the course of the year. However, when you look at the first half, you talk about the second series where they went down, they scored the touchdown, but they were heavy run in that series. Then they go 3 and out. And they just didn't have a lot of plays in the first half. And then you get to the second half, they're trying to get him the ball. But again, there just wasn't that connection today. And Jonnu Smith, they brought him here. I mean, last year he had 8 touchdowns for the Tennessee Titans in the red zone. And you could tell, like, he was a dynamic player. He added a lot to it. But here, he's not really been a part of the passing game at all. He's a run blocking tight end. And every now and then they'll let him be an outlet, right, to the flat, a guy over the ball, something like that. But they don't utilize his speed at all, or even give an opportunity to. And I don't know if that's just a product of him not being productive, or just the simple fact that they don't trust him.
The Patriots, last thing, the Patriots rushed for 5.5 yards per carry. They threw for 4.6 yards per pass play. If they just maybe hand the ball off every single play, maybe they win this game like they did in Buffalo 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use basically the same strategy that they did in Week 13.